and welcome to Colette and Matt have entered the chat. And thank you, dear listener or listeners, we might have more than one, for entering the chat with us this week. A weekly conversation about civilization's most important topic. I know you're thinking climate change, global pandemic,
world hunger,
world hunger, child mortality rates. No.
Video games.
It's video games. Colette Bennett, how are you?
It's me. Hi. I'm good. I'm really good. I'm actually really bubbly and excited to talk about today's topic because, I'm excited.
It has begun. We are recording this on Thursday evening, June 10th, but it is the Summer Games Game Fest. It is E3. It is upon us, and it's all weird and mixed up and internet-y this year as it was last year. But and there's been so much discussion of E3, who needs it? And no one needs to go into a show floor, and we have the internet, and I love all that stuff. But all the stuff is starting to collect around the summer and summer game launches or trailers or whatever. And even just today, I feel like everything that's been being worked on during COVID is finally it's here. We got it. Here's a trailer. Get ready. Get hyped for 2021 and beyond. Today's episode is about the games that we and you, our listeners, are personally super hyped about. And I'm ready.
Me too.
We're going to do this round robin style. You're going to share something. Now, just to clarify, for the rules of this thought experiment, this can be something that we are expecting to be announced at one of these, directs, E3s, forwards, Game Fests, whatever. It could be something we wish existed. It could be something, hey, we're not going to see this until 2025, Starfield kind of stuff. We have no clue what's going on, but we can't wait. There are very few rules here for this episode. So, without further ado, what are you hyped about, Colette?
I'm excited that I get to start.
Don't get nervous.
Before the episode, because I have the memory of a piece of Swiss cheese, I was like, let me review. Let me think about all of the things that I've seen and let me look at some lists and really consider. And I don't remember when I first saw it, although I think it could have been last year, but the problem is that that's my memory. So it could have literally been 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. There was a game that I saw previewed. And I think that by far, this is easily the game I am the most excited about.
This is tops?
This is tops. And this is a real game that it's not one that I wish was coming. It's a real game that's coming. It's Ghostwire Tokyo. Are you familiar?
Oh, yeah. I am aware, and I don't know much. I know that there's a big deal studio behind it, but it's escaping me now. This is the Final Fantasy studio or something?
It's Bethesda, actually, who I trust to make a good game. Yes.
Oh, it's Bethesda's Japanese arm or whatever. Is that? Okay.
So the whole concept is set in Tokyo, clearly, right? You gathered that. And the city has been hit by some sort of supernatural event after with no warning, 99% of the people that live in Tokyo vanish, which that kind of mysterious hook gets me every time. Yeah. And I mean, also I'll be completely transparent. I'm a huge weeb. I think everyone that listens to this podcast knows that. And so the minute you're going to set anything in Japan, it sucks, but if I had a tail, it would wag, it just is how it is. And it's I could be ashamed of it, or I could just be hey, this is me. So
embrace it.
All right. Trying to embrace it. So obviously it's set in Japan, but even if it wasn't set in Japan, quite honestly, this story is fascinating to me. Mm-hmm. Another thing that I find very interesting about it is that Shinji Mikami is involved. And I've really, really enjoyed his past games, so I felt really strongly about like him being in on it.
So name those games.
Shinji Mikami, God, where should I start? He, hold on. I literally had to pull up a list because I could not remember all of the games.
Mm-hmm.
So hang on a second. I lost my page. Shinji Mikami was the director of the first Resident Evil, and he also directed Dino Crisis. I don't know if you remember that, like forever back in the day.
I'd never played it, but we're aware of it, yes.
It was good. So he kind of like had his hands in like the kind of birth of survival horror. So obviously, you know, that's like a big thing to me. He also worked on Resident Evil 4. And then after those, he went to Platinum Games for a little while. And then the last thing he's done most recently, which is one of my favorite things he's ever done, is The Evil Within, a game I have really enjoyed.
Okay.
But basically, I just really respect like his, you know, roots in survival horror, and I just felt like that would be the thing that would be the most interesting. I mean, this is not a horror game, you know, but it is just the kind of setting, I guess, that just really, really appeals to me. It is a PS5 game, so it will be gorgeous. That always, you know, definitely like majorly appeals to me.
Well, there is an existential horror idea in the premise of it, even if it's not monsters or ghosts or whatever. So yeah, I think you need a veteran horror. You need a you know, a masterwork here to pull off this kind of thing.
Let me put it this way: like the supernatural powers that you're up against are called the visitors, and they're haunting the city. So you are making contact with spirits, which I would go as far as to say that is a horror / spooky premise, you know?
Right.
Excuse me. But that, like, what's interesting about the visitors is that rather than just being like a faceless, nameless, like, you know, enemy that just comes after you, each visitor that you make contact with in the game is like a mourning spirit, basically. So like they have stories, and all of them are very human stories, like things that happened to them when they were alive. So for me, that's like the twist of like, oh my gosh, like there's going to be real depth. You know, it will be an action game, but there'll also be like depth to that part of it, or at least I imagine it that way in my mind. Anyway, you know, there have been some write-ups about the trailers that have come out for it. On the top of my head, I'm not sure when exactly it's coming out. I think it's supposed to be this year, but I don't think there's a month.
That was my next question. Yeah.
I don't think there's a month decided for it, but I haven't heard anything about it in a little while. But yeah, I have to say the combo of all those things, I'm just extremely hyped about. So that's my number one most wanted.
You
What's
know,
yours?
I was vaguely aware. I was aware of it. They came on the scene during some event and said, "It's our next game. It's Ghostwire Tokyo," and people were hyped for all the reasons you described. But I didn't really I didn't look much further into the premise or the concept of it. And just hearing you get into it makes me much more interested than I was previously.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that.
I like
because
that.
it was a good excuse for me to fangirl about it. Because honestly, I got so excited when the original trailers came out, and then time went by, so I just forgot about it for a little while, and so it had kind of vanished from my mind for a little while. And so when I was doing my research for the episode, I was just like, oh my God. And I got like really hyped, like all over again.
And if this is an arm of Bethesda, which is now part of Microsoft, then this will not be a PS5 exclusive kind of deal. It'll end up on PC and Xbox.
PC is what I would most hope for it to be on. I think it's for PS5 and Xbox, actually. I have to check my stuff. But the last time I heard anything about it, it was October that it was supposed to come out. So, you know, might come out then.
Of this year. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Might come out then. Might not. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't hold too tight to release dates, to be honest, because I always feel like they could change.
they have changed so much, and that's what I'm finding interesting about this year is like every single game you thought was going to come out at a certain time is delayed 2 months, 5 months, 6 months, but then randomly other stuff just shows up and it's like, hey, this is here, and you're like, okay, great, I was not expecting that, but here we go. And it's been an interesting year.
One quick extra note, one thing I will say is that the story or the plot of Ghostwire Tokyo, of what I know, reminds me of a Shin Megami Tensei style game. Mm-hmm, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's like it's just not just that it's set where it's set, but the premise. That's the kind of dark shit that I'm like, yeah. There's a weeb line. We've talked about it a little bit here, that it's like, I'm down for it too, but when it gets too off the wall, then that I can't get on board with it anymore. And I think I mentioned like Xenoblade Chronicles Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was just so dumb, and it didn't click for me either as a mechanical game. So I was just like, no. But then like I loved Nier Automata. Nier is beautiful. Nier is really beautiful. I did. I played the original Nier when that first came out, and I also love that because you actually played as an older man, which was like something that like I feel like you don't play as a protagonist a lot. It's like it's not as rare as playing as an old woman, but like it's rare.
But this re-release remake is different because they went with the Japanese protagonist or something. They went with the brother instead of the father. Are you aware of this?
Yeah, I was, and so I will say I did not finish Nier Automata, and I know that it is easily one of the games that I've heard the most praised around me, like by friends. It is on my gosh, you really need to get to that list.
Yeah, especially because there's just wild stuff. There's very meta wild things mechanically that end up happening there that I don't know. It's just his the designer his name is escaping me right now, but he's just that wild genius that just saying, what if we just threw out this whole thing out the window and just let you do this? And it's just it's the medium of games. I love it. Yeah. So that the sexy half naked androids is there's a lot of Japaneseness going on there, but like Nier was so stylistic and cool and existentially heavy that I was like, sure. Yeah, these naked androids are working for me. But then on the flip side, there's a lot of other Japanese media that I'm just like, So I don't know much about Shin Megami Tensei, which side of the line those end up on.
Well, just a quick brief, right? Like Shin Megami Tensei, is like the Persona games, but then it's also like the Shin Megami Tensei Otherworld stuff, which is like Nocturne, which just got re-released. And there've been a series called Shin Megami Tensei 1, 2, 3. So it's got its own kind of side thing. It's kind of hard to explain the flavors like really clearly. I think weeby
flavors is a good word.
Weeby and dark. That's probably the best way that I would put it.
Yeah. The darker it gets, the more I'm down to expand the scope.
Yeah, for sure.
Or expand the tent there.
Yeah.
All right. You've got me psyched about Ghostwire. Let's take a look at, we asked folks in the Discord. We asked folks on Twitter because 'tis the season and what are folks hyped about? And we got a lot of responses and there's a lot of overlap here, but I'm excited to talk about all of them. Alex G on Twitter says, what I want is for Nintendo to finally port the Wii U HD remasters of Zelda Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, parentheses, my favorite. Alex is saying that, but that's probably also up there for me as well. Personally, let's get them over to the Switch. Almost every other notable Wii U game has had a Switch re-release, and it is Zelda's 35th anniversary, which has come and gone, but we are still within the 35th year.
Right.
Alex G says, come on, Nintendo, it's time. This is a lot of wishful thinking, but also like well within the realm of possibility. So it begs the question, what will this happen? But also, what I would like to see Nintendo go big for Zelda. What are they going to do here? And what surprises are in store?
I think they're going to rest on Breath of the Wild 2, to be quite honest, and like, hey, fine. Like,
fine, I'll take it.
Fine. But I thought it was really...
I'll take a sequel to the greatest open world game ever made.
Right.
Fine.
Right. I think like it was cool, right, to see this from Alex, because it immediately made me think of two things. One, the Wii U is like one of the big holes in my console history because I just hated the controller and I never wanted to own it. So I never did. And so as a result, I've never played either one of these remasters, and I have never played Twilight Princess at all.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So,
how can you even call yourself a gamer, honestly?
I played the original Wind Waker and loved it, but it's rough. It's really rough. How dare I? So anyway, then I was like, oh snap. And then I was like, wow, Nintendo did that. Then I could finally like dissolve my shame.
What a treat. But what a treat. What a treat for you to just kick back on the couch and play this really, really good staple, bread and butter staple. Is it the most innovative? Is it the Breath of the Wild? Is it the... no, but Twilight Princess is a fantastic Zelda game that you've never touched, and you can just kick back and just enjoy a Zelda game. Like, how cool would that be for you? That would be awesome.
Yeah, it would be really awesome. I would enjoy it. I think I kind of got into a space where I'm trying to think of where exactly in history it was. I think it was like after Ocarina, where I just kind of like I got really interested in PlayStation is what it was. And I just kind of ignored Nintendo for a little while. Totally. And as a result, it ended up being that I missed some major series titles. So,
and I guess you kind of missed it because I never owned a Wii U, so I must have played Twilight Princess on the Wii. I believe it was the last big Wii game. If I could be mistaken, but I remember it releasing simultaneously on both systems, and I was like, all right, I have a Wii. I'll just play the Wii version, and really loved it. And the motion controls for Twilight Princess were pretty rad. Which were then, I'm sorry, Skyward Sword was on the Wii.
Skyward Sword, that's another one I haven't played.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword are my two big Zelda misses, the two that I've never played.
Well, we know Skyward Sword is coming, and I know a lot of people shit on Skyward Sword, and I understand the criticism. I generally agree with it, but it's still a very fun, solid Zelda game. I would not steer you away from Skyward Sword. I really enjoyed it. Actually, it's one of the few games that I wrote a real, grown-up review of for a professional media site, and I gave it a good review. I was very happy.
Awesome. I love that. Well,
all right,
on the to-do list.
I want everything that Alex wants, and of course, you know what? I'm nervous about Breath of the Wild 2, just because, like, how do you top that game? How do you iterate on that game without it being more of the same or reaching for something like swing and a miss? There's a very sweet spot in there that, if I was going to trust someone to do it, I think Nintendo is going to have the best shot at doing it. But like, I don't know. What if Breath of the Wild is not great? Not that it's not great, but what if it's not boundary pushing or exciting in that way?
Name the last Nintendo game that you were like, wow, this is really not good.
There are there are some, and I'd have to think back or look back here.
All I'm saying is, I hear you. You're right. It is like game perfection, but they also made that. So I kind of see it as like they've been able to reinvent Zelda for 35 years, and we've pretty much never been very disappointed. I mean, I know some people have their ups and downs, but I mean, we've continued to kind of play the same story more or less and still been happy about it. And I think that like one thing in the last couple of years since getting a Switch that I've felt strongly has been that everything I buy that's a Nintendo product, like a first party Nintendo product, I've been like, this is so fucking polished. This is so well thought out, well planned, fun, makes you feel like a kid, like that kind of delight. So I'll be honest, I'm not even a little afraid of that, no. But I hear you. I totally hear you.
I'll reframe it a little bit. I'm not worried it will be a bad game or that it will miss the mark. It's very hard to top something like Breath of the Wild. And you usually like, oh, name a bad Nintendo game. It's hard to do that, but like I think about a game like Mario Party, which has been a top seller, really great, really good couch co-op, and it's been a beloved series for like, I don't know, 8 freaking titles or whatever it's been. And the recent one that they released for Switch is like universally like, wow, this sucked. I haven't gotten it, I haven't played it, but like people were not happy with it. And I also won't shit on Mario Kart 8 because it's tremendous, it's outstanding. But I recently listened to a discussion about Mario Kart Double Dash, which was for the GameCube, and I agreed with the commentators about it, which was that it was 2-player co-op where you both were on the same cart and you chose your character, and each character had a unique power-up weapon. So if you chose Donkey Kong, he had a huge banana, and if you chose Wario, he had like a bomb or something. And it was like there was a level of strategy, and then you'd pick up a power up and it's like, okay, I'm going to drive and you're on the back and you're going to throw the power up. And then, hey, the driver got the power up. So we switch places in the heat of the race and you throw your power up at this exact moment. And it's like, okay, that's amazing. They just threw that away to make a very standard kart game for Kart 8. Again, Mario Kart 8 is phenomenal, but I guess I just mean like sometimes Nintendo has like amazing groundbreaking stuff and then they play it safe the next time and it's like, oh, okay, another one of those. And I don't really think Breath of the Wild is going to fall into that trap, but it's hard. It could. It's hard to top the tops.
Yeah, you're right. I may be the eternal optimist thinking that it's going to be even better. That might be like the 6-year-old in me that's like, it's going to be even better.
Is it going to be even better? And then will we be disappointed if it's just as good? Which is the most spoiled, shitty thing to say.
No,
like,
I don't.
It's just as good as Breath of the Wild, the greatest game ever, so it sucks.
But what you really see, and it's interesting because that highlights a difference between what you want out of it and what I do. What I want is to just go back to that Hyrule. What I do there, to be honest, is kind of inconsequential to me because it was so peaceful to me and so soothing to me to play Breath of the Wild, and I loved getting lost there. But as we learned when we took our little gamer profiles in the Discord the other day, my number one thing is the atmosphere to, lose myself in a game. And so if it was, more of the same, more or less, I think I'd be okay. But like, as I think about like the bosses you fight and then how they lead up to Ganon, I'm kind of like, well, they couldn't do that again. So what exactly would they, how would they do it? So yeah, it is a question mark for me in my head, but like, I guess if it was equally as good as the first one, I would be happy. And it sounds like what you want is for it to be as good as the first one, but also be better.
Well, maybe I'll say better is a stupid word. Let's call it different. Meaning,
yeah.
Because correct me if you know differently, if you've read differently, like I believe it's running in the same engine. Like the stuff, the tech they built to run Breath of the Wild 1 will run Breath of the Wild 2 with whatever enhancements. So to your point, it's the same world, it's the same vibe, it's the same feel. But like, what if it wasn't fight boss 1, 2, 3, 4, then unlock the final boss? What if it was some other structure? I mean, the reason Breath of the Wild changed Zelda is because the core DNA is still Link and Zelda, but they threw away a lot of the rest of it and just said, hey, do whatever you want. And that was extraordinary. And so what is the extraordinary hook that will be in Breath of the Wild 2? I'll say this. I just hope it is something unexpected, the way Breath of the Wild was somewhat unexpected. It was not dungeon 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It was holy cow.
Yeah.
And I guess I can't imagine what it could be, and that is exciting.
But also slightly scary.
I don't want it to feel like Breath of the Wild DLC. I want it to feel like
I don't think it will.
Wild new thing.
Yeah, I don't think it will, but we'll see. We will most certainly see.
Wind Waker it was just pure joy. I never played the HD version, but I played the GameCube version, and just feeling like, I'm in an animated movie. I'm inside of it, and that's what the dream has always been for games. And two, just sail. And it was, and when you really, as a grown up, look back, it's like, okay, it is structured as a Zelda. You can only go certain places, and the ocean is not quite as big or open as you felt it could have been. But just that endlessness feeling of it, it was so well done. The illusion was so well implemented that it almost, like, Breath of the Wild is truly a huge open space. Wind Waker isn't quite that, but it really feels like that. And that is a monumental achievement for, 2004, whatever year Wind Waker came out, amazing game.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. Now I just want to go play Zelda games. Bye.
Oh my God, I know. Well, okay. Let's talk about Nintendo again for a little bit here. But let's get a Breath of the Wild to something, a date, a window, a trailer, whatever. And that's going to get us hyped up. And then that might be my cue to play Breath of the Wild again, as we've discussed previously.
Oh, I'd love to do that.
We should do that. But then this leads me to my other thing here, which other folks have mentioned. What's the deal with the Switch Pro? What's it going to mean? What is it? And all the leaks about the technology have me really uninterested, because the only way I will get one is if it has hardware that will run games better. So, Zelda Breath of the Wild runs at 30 frames a second. If we can really run that at 60, or if Breath of the Wild 2 is like, hey, you can play it on a regular Switch, but if you really want it to be beautiful and run great, get the Switch Pro, then I'm going to probably get the Switch Pro. But if all it is like a nicer screen and some AI that makes it look 4K, I really don't give a shit about that.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I think it would have to be pretty significant for me to really, really care about it. Although, if I think back about when Nintendo comes out with improvements, like one thing that I definitely followed the trajectory of was all the different DS lights, like the DS, the DS Lite, and I had, I think, 3 or 4 different ones of all their iterations. And I do have to say that, in my opinion, they all evolved so well. And had so much to offer that I happily followed that trajectory. So I don't know, on one hand, I want to be like, Nintendo knows what they're doing. But on the other hand, it's like, Nintendo did make the Wii U, and that was the biggest turnoff of a console I can possibly imagine. I couldn't even give it a chance based on how much I disliked the way it looked and handled, how it felt in my hands. So, I mean, it's totally possible, but on the other hand, I feel like if they hadn't made the Wii U, they wouldn't have realized. I think that the Wii U, the controller specifically, was the precursor for the Switch.
Yeah. It certainly was. It was the dream of the Switch, but not quite ready for prime time. It's a very similar precipice where the Wii is still the best-selling console of all time. I could be wrong, but it's up there. It's like a monumental smash hit. Grandma's playing Wii bowling. We've won. We've won the video game console generation. And then it's like, guess what, everyone? It's the Wii 2, and it sucked. So here we are. The Switch is the gangbusters, far and away winner of the generation, just in terms of sales and consumer affinity, for lack of a better term. And get ready. Here's the second one. So is it going to be a slam dunk, or is it going to be a swing and a miss? And I don't, I just mixed my sports metaphors there, but yeah, I don't know. Like a slightly bigger screen without a bevel, like that's it. Like what? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know that. Yeah, I know the display is supposed to be like OLED. That would be pretty, but like I don't know. I think I'm in the boat with you. I don't know that I would be like, I gotta go get it right now. So I'd have to see it. I'd have to hold it and know what it's like.
Mm-hmm. If there's some processor on there, a GPU or something that really, if it would allow me to run the games I currently own better, and then what's going on there? Do the developers of those games have to like upgrade them or enhance them or whatever? And then, and also Breath of the Wild 2, Metroid Prime 4 are all going to be better on this. Then if it's a forward-looking leap, I will go forward with Nintendo within this generation. So, I mean, we might know, by the time you are listening to this, we might know the answer to these questions. It's interesting. So anyway, I'll give you one of mine here because like a lot of our discussion here, I think, will be connected to Nintendo and the Switch Pro and whether or not I replay Breath of the Wild now or wait for a new hardware that might be a thing for me. I don't know. We'll see. But let's talk about, by the time this publishes, Game Builder Garage will be live for Nintendo Switch. And have you seen this thing?
No, I've not heard of it.
Oh, really? Game Builder Garage, to reduce it, perhaps unfairly, is like Nintendo's version of Dreams, which is the neat PlayStation Game Builder.
Yeah.
This thing, and the reviews are starting to come out, and I've watched and read a few of them today, and it looks like an insanely powerful game design, programming, but consumer-friendly programming system where you make your own games and then you can share them. Doesn't sound like there's some online portal for sharing, but if I create a game and upload it, I can give you a code and then you can play my game.
Okay.
And when the trailers came out, it's like, oh, okay, you can make this, simple platformer, and you can make this little shooter game, and then I guess you can put different graphics. It's like, no, actually, you can make whatever you want. And it's incredibly powerful. It uses a system called like nodons, which is like nodes, but in classic Nintendo fashion, it's like, here's the texture nodon, and here's the collision nodon, and they all have different personalities. And apparently there's like 80 of them with all different systems and whatever. And you connect them using a flowchart like system. You can actually plug a keyboard and mouse into your Switch, and it supports that. And there's these very, very rigorous tutorials that explain how to program a game. And you go through the tutorials, and then they also give you what are essentially puzzles, which are like, hey, this game is broken. Connect the wires so that the game functions, so that when you jump on this platform, it turns red instead of blue, or whatever the systems are, right?
Wow.
And then, it's like hours and hours and hours of programming tutorials, apparently, from what I've been reading. And then you can make whatever you want. And the reviews have been basically like, this thing is incredibly powerful. When the internet gets a hold of it, get ready. It's like if Mario Maker and Dreams had a baby, sort of. And as we've seen with Mario Maker, in the limited, like, hey, what's the craziest Super Mario levels you can make? You and I might make like, oh, jump on this platform and then kill the Koopa and then get the flag. And then other people are like, I've made Beethoven's Ninth Symphony playing as you walk through the land here, and it plays automatically through all these mechanisms. And that I just love giving these kinds of tools to the internet and then seeing the crazy shit that happens.
Yeah, this is fascinating. I just pulled it up on my phone, and I'm just like, whoa. I have somehow, some way not seen this before now, and I think this is so cool. And what I love about this is that it's a completely all ages type of game. So like it kind of, and this is something I think Nintendo has such a talent at. They encourage your creativity and your sense of magic and fun in the way that a good parent would do so to a child, but somehow, some way that approach appeals to everybody. Does that make sense? Like,
it does, in the way that a Disney movie is like, it's for kids, but like the themes and the art and the animation, the story are very sophisticated. It's not baby shit that you would, or there's two kinds of media for kids. There's the media you enjoy with your kids, and there's the media that you just put on and walk out of the room because it's just annoying cartoon kid crap,
Right.
And Disney and Nintendo share some of that DNA where it's like, it's for everyone.
Yeah.
And it's special.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that. It appeals perfectly to my inner kid, I think, but also to my adult self. So I love that very much about Nintendo.
Yep. So maybe, and I think there's some Labo DNA in this game builder thing, which I never did Labo because it was a lot. It was a lot of stuff and cardboard and kind of like really cool. But then you made a piano, and then that would just sit around and collecting dust, and I didn't want to do that. This is digital toys like this are much more appealing to me. So
yeah, no, for sure. I totally get that.
So I am pumped. All right, what do you got? What's next on your list?
All right, I guess I'm going to go into fantasy world now because I've already gone in real world. Persona 6, just an announcement, just its Persona 6 announcement would be excited to me. And I think that one of the things that specifically excites me about this is that Persona had the same producer. His name is slipping me at the moment. But after Persona 5, he left. So, everything that Persona is basically, like, I'm sure will stay. But I think that it is at a point where it could have like, it could end up being like different, like keeping the pieces that are right, that are good, but like also having maybe like a fresh, different approach somewhere in it. And I'm not sure what exactly that would look like. Because I do like the mechanics of Persona very much, and I'm not like bored playing them. But I will say that as a person who played Persona 3, 4, 5 more or less in a row, that basically I felt as if each iteration has been Atlas kind of reinventing like the basic structure of the same game.
Yeah.
And like making it better each time. So like in my opinion,
this is very
like
similar to the Zelda conversation. If you disagree. Yeah.
No, you're right. I actually didn't think of it that way. But like, it's interesting. I enjoyed Persona 5 so much. And I think it is like one of the most incredible RPGs I've ever played. Even so, as much as I enjoyed it, there was a part of me that was like, I wonder what it would look like if Persona somehow like kept its DNA, but like attempted something different than you're, a guy protagonist that goes to a faraway town and stays with his uncle or a brother or whatever, and then, meets these other kids at school, and then you get into this fantasy world thing. Like, that's great. Don't get me wrong. But like, what would a different setup look like?
Isn't this hard for the creator audience relationship? In that, I mean, you've made a thing that people love. And then when you make the next thing, sometimes as a consumer, you just want more of what you love. You just want the same thing. And sometimes you want the DNA, but then you want the next version of it. You want it to push boundaries. And you can't really satisfy both of those audiences. I think occasionally you do, and then you get a Breath of the Wild or an Elder Scrolls kind of a situation where it's like, okay, Skyrim is more of walking around fighting monsters and getting into the lore of whatever, but it iterated on Oblivion in a way that was like became probably the biggest best-selling Bethesda game of all time. So it's a bit of a conundrum, as a creative person to think about something that is it's so scary to have something so successful, because then what the hell do you do next?
Yeah. Actually, you saying that reminded me of an interview that I read. It was a little while ago, but the same guy that I mentioned, who I wish I could remember he was basically like the director over the Persona series. But I remember him saying that, like, they got such great support when they did 3 that, like, they felt like they had to exceed the 3 in 4, and they had to exceed 4 in 5. And like that was something that, like, they felt very strongly that was a very important part.
They felt obligated to do that.
Right. So yeah, I don't know how it will look. I will say that I have had such pleasure in every Shin Megami Tensei series, and Persona specifically, that I feel pretty trusting that no matter what I see, it will be something that will absolutely delight me and amaze me, and I will just lose myself in for 100 hours, because that's what you do when you play Persona. It's another one of those things where I don't mind waiting, because I waited, you wait many years in between Persona entries, and I feel like this is, when I look around me at the games that I really respect, I see that they had very long development times. Yes. And, like, I've always admired that, Blizzard takes such a long time in between Diablos, because they're not hurrying. I'm sure they could grind out, like, stuff maybe faster, but, like, they just don't do it that way. They know that the fandom is going to wait.
You did the math last time, and it was 10 years between each. It was 10 years. 1 and 2 and 2 and 3, or, crazy.
But I mean, what the crazy thing is to me is that I think that they're making great money the entire time. Like, okay, so after our last episode, I downloaded Diablo 2 and 3.
Oh, yeah.
Diablo 2 just would not function on my machine. It was like,
really?
Nope, I'm too old. I'm not doing that. Yes.
Wow.
But 3 installed fine. And I started playing 3. And then when my Tuesday stream day came up, I was like, I don't know what I want to play, really. I think I'm just going to pop into Diablo for a while. And I'm thinking, this game's so old, like, no one's going to care. Like, no one's going to come in and give a single shit that I'm playing Diablo 3. All these randos just came in and were like, hey, like, oh my gosh, you're playing Diablo 3. I love this. Like, oh, like, do you have this and this? And like, the next thing I know, like, people are adding me on BattleNet, and someone's like, hey, let me jump into the game with you. And I can I can power level you really fast. And I'm like, what?
Oh, that's so cool.
So I was playing like a level 7 character. And like, by the time the person unfortunately had to go before they like maxed me out, but I went from like level 7 to almost level 40 like in one night,
because they were carrying you in high level whatever rifts or,
and I was just so impressed by that. I was just like, wow, this is. And then I remembered that 10 years after Diablo 2 that I would still pick it up from time to time, and I was just like, people are still playing, but also Diablo still has like seasons, and it has like it has ongoing events that do still happen. So I have to remember that too. So I'm like, shit, might just play Diablo for a while.
That's really, I love when the streams are always interactive, but also like, hey folks, come, who wants to join up, party up in whatever I'm playing. It's just the coolest thing.
It was just the coolest. Like, I was just like, wow. And like so many people wanted to talk about it and just, and everyone was like, oh my gosh, are you going to play, Diablo 4? Are you going to play Immortal? Like there's so many, things coming up. And that actually was one of the other things I was going to talk about tonight, which really I talked about last week too, but just how excited I am for literally any new Diablo product to come out. I'll be so excited about the remake of 2. I'll be so excited about more Diablo 4. Like, I'll just be over the top for any of those things. Shit, I'll even be excited about the mobile game. Like, I'm fine with that.
That was my question. What is up with Immortal, and when is it due? And what's this? It's just like, hey, download it on your phone, free to play. Is it like a free to play something? Like,
I'm almost positive it'll be free to play. It is still supposed to be this year. The last time I heard about it was in the Blizzard earnings announcement stuff, and they said that it's still on track for 2021. It is free to play, and that is more or less all I know. I know they've released more detailed stuff about like the classes and stuff like that, but I'll be honest, this is the game I've dug the least into the deep details about, because if I had to number it in order of what I'm most excited about, it would be like Diablo 4, Diablo 2 remake, and then Diablo Immortal.
Yeah. I think you're not alone in that, but it's also like how far we've come with mobile games. It's like everyone shit on Immortal when it was announced, but like, how could they not have this?
Yeah, I don't know.
Of course, you want to pop into Diablo and kill some stuff on your phone for 10 minutes and then pop
all
out.
you have to do is tap. It's literally the most intuitive for a mobile platform you can possibly imagine a thing being.
That's it.
So I mean, I'm just incredibly excited, and I'll be so excited not only to see the games come out, but also to hop on and play them with friends. And I have so many friends in my circles that I've played Diablo with over the years, and I just look forward to everything about it, the community, the discovering of the new things. I've never been a power leveler, like a like max player. Like, I don't have 6 level 70 characters. Like, I've never really done that stuff, but maybe this time I will. I don't know. Like, I just know that it's just really fun for me. So
are you aware if Diablo 3 is cross-platform? Because I have it on Switch and it ran great. I just couldn't get into it. But can you play online with PC players, or is that wishful thinking? I can look that up.
I don't know, but I'm actually I was typing it into my phone as you were speaking it, because I was like, that seems like something that Blizzard would do. Nope, actually, I'm wrong. We do not have any plans to implement cross-platform gameplay for Diablo at this time, and that was said in February of this year. So fuck no.
It came about at a time when cross-platform was not really. I feel like we're just entering the time in games where it's like, of course it's cross-platform, of course it's cross-progression, like that's the default, and it has never been that way. And the rare games that were like, whoa, this is cool, and I'm glad that we're finally in a world. I think about Microsoft acquiring Minecraft and then saying, okay, this is the world's most important game. Let's unify. Let's bring it all together. Let's make sure it works everywhere. If you have a phone, it works there. If you have a toaster, it works there. Toaster and phone can play together. It's cross-compatible. And that once that work got done, I think that started pushing the industry forward of like, okay, well, kids are going to be having phones more than they're going to be having PS5s. So Fortnite needs to work on everything too. And if Fortnite works on everything, then Apex needs to be working on everything, that kind of stuff. And so I like it.
It will.
I like seeing it.
Mean, I think we're just going to see more and more of it as the years keep going by. But yes, I agree that it's obvious. It's like the thing that must happen. And
it must happen.
It is really weird. I don't know why, but like Diablo fans are very, well, actually, you know what? Never mind. I just answered my own question in my head. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, video game fans are like famously like critical of everything. I was going to say Diablo fans are so critical, but then I was like, oh yeah, they're gamers.
Yeah.
And gamers are critical.
Anything that is obsessive, any art or media form that has obsessive fans, and as an obsessive person, and I'm not saying that in a derogatory way. So if you are obsessed with Star Wars, you're going to be mad when Star Wars isn't doing the thing that you wanted it to do. And if you're obsessed with your game and it didn't pay off in the end, or it runs like shit, you're going to be upset because, should you as a grown up have those feelings? Probably not. But not only have you invested quite a bit of your money into these things, you've bought a console, you've bought your PC, you paid $60 for a game, but also like how much emotional energy have you invested in your favorite game or character or movie franchise or whatever. And then when it disappoints you, it's like, your best friend or your partner or whatever letting you down. And it sucks. Even though as rational people, we should not be operating that way, you could argue.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know. Rational. I kind of think that rational and humanity don't really go together.
Well, that's we can hope. All right, your the listeners continued hype. The hype train continues to leave the station. Tarpo on Twitter. Hello, friend, a longtime friend of mine on the internet. Tarpo says, I'm hoping for a sports story update on Switch. Some Metroid update. Amen from Tarpo's tweets to God's ears. When will we know about Metroid? And then Tarpo also says, whatever is coming to Game Pass over the next 8 months. I was not familiar with Sports Story. I was only aware of Golf Story, which looks adorable and really fun and cute. I guess I could describe it as like a Stardew Valley, but for golf.
I've had friends rave
right?
about it, and I've never been interested in golf, so I was never going to play it. But it apparently has a great following. But I had never heard of Sports Story either. So when I read the tweet, I just typed it into my phone, and oh my God, this looks so precious. It's so precious. And I love the tagline, a game about sports, but not always. Alternate activities like dungeon exploration, stealthy infiltrations, and fishing expeditions. I was like, what?
Yep. Sign me up.
And it does look just like Stardew. Like if you look at it, it's got that exact same aesthetic.
Yes. It's reminding me to add Golf Story back to the list and check out Sports Story, which I was not aware of. I don't give a shit about golf, but golf games there's something in there. There's something in the sort of just there's the putting and the picking your driver and getting as close to the hole and playing with friends, and it's just that chill. And the new Mario Golf, I don't know if that's going to be a day one purchase for me, but it really looks great. It looks lovely.
Yeah, that's cool. Another thing I really appreciate about hearing from our listeners is that no matter what, they always either give me some new insight or in this case, just tell me about games that I had no idea existed.
Totally.
And I'm like, wow, I never thought I'd play something with sports in the title. But I might.
I might. Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Tarpo, for the tweet. Next on my list, I may have mentioned it here, but the next Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game called Shredder's Revenge, which is an homage to the arcade brawler. And again, speaking of aesthetics and doing it right, everything about this, the trailers and the look and the art is like, yes, it's what we've been wanting from Turtles arcade franchise for probably 2 decades. Forever. And even when those Turtles games were so big, and then they brought them to Nintendo and Super Nintendo, they just were not, the fidelity was not quite there as it was in the arcade. So they really fell short, and looking back on them, not as great. But clearly we can do it now. And it's actually quite strange that it's taken this long for this IP to come back in this form. And when games get rebooted or styles come back, whatever, like sometimes they like do it wrong, or they make it 3D, or they whatever, and it's like, but no, this is .emu and I don't remember the publisher, or I guess they're the publisher. It looks spectacular, and I also love that it'll be on every platform, and it'll be on Switch, and just like boom, day one purchase. It'll be in 2021. Maybe we'll see some more of it over the course of this month or this coming week. But it looks rad. It just looks like a fun one. I don't really care like, oh, what's going to be new. Getting back to what we were talking about earlier. I don't need this to push boundaries or be innovative in any way. I just want to beat up foot soldiers with a bow staff. That's it. That's all I want to do.
It's good to have games that meet simple needs.
Simple needs.
I think this is the reason why I like Diablo, because I just like to click and kill.
Every time you talk about it, I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll just fire it up on Switch again.
Just click and kill.
I need to click and kill, or in the Switch's case, just press and kill. Press A and kill.
Right. Press A and kill.
All right. What do you got?
This is a smaller one, actually, but I was reading earlier today and I saw a headline about a game called Endless Dungeon. And speaking of Diablo, the person that wrote about it said, Endless Dungeon kind of looks like Diablo in space with like Diablo in space. Oh, no, anime Diablo in space. And I was like, hello?
Yes. That's me.
Hello. You have my attention. Also, there's a fat plague doctor that you can play, and like that alone is just like, oh my god, when have you ever seen a pleasantly plump plague doctor? Say that 5 times fast. Like the design kind of reminds me of like, it's got like a kind of like Overwatch vibe to like the character design.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, Diablo in space. Like
Diablo in space with Overwatch vibes.
And roguelite, not roguelike, roguelite. So, you can play it with, I think, up to 3. But it just really seems like I don't know. Like I really, really, really like what I'm seeing. I know there's a ton of extra characters you can play, but right now they've only revealed 3 of them, and one of them is the chubby plague doctor. And the other 2 are really cool looking kind of robot mecha styled characters. But it just looks like something that I would have a lot of fun playing. And so and it's a Sega game, which was also like, wow.
Right.
When's the last time I played a Sega game,
Is this slated for the near future, or is it kind of just like, we'll tell you when? Check it out.
I think there was a trailer today in the the summer event.
Yeah, it's the first I've heard of it, and only just saw it today as well.
And that has pretty much been like the only thing I've seen. I don't know if maybe they mentioned a date, but I didn't notice it. If so.
All the ingredients you list are all very appealing to me, and I like them all together, working together. I watched it today too. I like the aesthetic of it. I need to know more. I was underwhelmed because I didn't see anything mechanical in there that was like, ooh, what about this? It was just a lot of like shooting things in corridors, managing your units or whatever, and shooting things. Like I couldn't tell, is it like a real-time strategy, or is it more like a Diablo, and is it co-op? And I want to know more about it. I'm interest is piqued, but I don't know. Wouldn't you just play Hades then, if that was the case?
But I've already played Hades for like 200 hours. Right. I'm just like, okay. But you know what? While I'm talking about this, actually, I just realized that there's something else that I'm actually really excited about, and that was announced today, and it's that Sky Children of Light is coming to Nintendo Switch, because I'm obsessed with Journey. It's like my favorite game of all time, and I wanted to enjoy Children of Light, and I tried it many times on mobile, and I don't know why, but I just hated playing on a tiny screen. It's such an expansive, beautiful game, just like Journey, it's got very similar aesthetic qualities, that I just desperately wanted to play it on a bigger screen. And I didn't really know that was ever going to come. So, and I also had like no idea that there were even plans for it to move to something bigger.
Was it an Apple Arcade thing? Is that what happened?
I think so. I mean, it's been around for a while. But I wish they would have done a PC version. That would have made me really happy. But
it's really not on PC. Like, it's just not.
It's been a mobile game only for years. And I always was just like, I just don't want to hold my phone for that long. Like, I just don't. So I am really excited about that.
Were you like, oh, this is so great, I just don't like the format? Like, you could see that you were loving it. Okay.
But I hated I just didn't want to play it on that tiny screen.
All right.
But I mean, I thought it was really interesting because they kind of took some of the concepts that Journey like brought up for them, like about like the way that you play with people online, and like opened them up when they did Sky. And I was just pissed that I couldn't get into it because of that, like I was like, God, this is beautiful, but like, I just don't want to play it here.
Yep.
So, and then I think like they're doing some sort of like event thing with it where you get to adventure with the Little Prince. And I thought that was the Little Prince, like Le Petit Prince from the books.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And when I saw that, I was just, I love the Little Prince. I was like, oh my God. But, it's coming out on June 29th, so it's actually not very far away. So that'll be the thing that I probably play the soonest. And I'm really excited that is coming soon.
What a unique little licensing crossover.
I thought so too. But I tell you what, when you see like the Little Prince with your character in the game, you're like, oh, like he belonged there. Like this is literally like his world anyway,
What a strange thing. Like, it's such a beloved children's book, and goes across generations. But like, is there any? Did they ever make a show? There's no other Little Prince games. It's such a unique.
No,
I wonder if they did make a show.
I love him so much. Like I would have played anything, any kind of Little Prince game.
Right.
I know there have been some like short films, and I've watched them.
Maybe what I'm thinking of
usually, but I don't. There's never been games that I've known of.
Yeah. Imagine making a game so unique and special where it's like, I don't know, who approached who, like, hey, can we bring the Little Prince in here? And it's like, oh, you've never licensed the Little Prince to anything ever, but we'll do it for children of, for this game.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Cool.
Special little thing.
Incredibly cool. I'm actually writing that down right now. I'm like, let me not forget to buy this on the 29th.
Phoenix Williams on Twitter, who edits video for me at work, or has. He got another really cool job that he's working on now. But we work together, and he says on Twitter, Breath of the Wild 2, of course, which we've covered, Switch Pro, which we've covered, Tales of Arise. I'm not familiar.
Yeah, well, that was in the list for today's stuff. And I was not able to watch even half of the original presentation because I was at work and too busy to go do it. But I briefly, because a friend in the Discord like shared everything, like every trailer, which was so nice. And I took a very quick glance, and it definitely, I mean, obviously it's a very anime aesthetic game. It's got like it's a Bandai Namco game. It looks to me like, at a glance, like it kind of reminds me of like, the Tales games, the Tales of RPGs. It kind of reminds me of like that vibe, but it's got something a little different about it too. It's hard
is
to
it an
place. Official
Tales game? Is Tales, the term Tales?
Oh my God! You know what? I just realized that I made.
You're like, it's really like those other Tales games.
Reminds me of? Tales games. I'm like, that's because it is. Wow,
It
why am I
literally
like this?
is one. I loved Tales of Symphonia, which was probably on GameCube.
Yes,
Must have been GameCube.
fun fact, Tales of Symphonia is the only RPG ever made that I know of with a character named Colette, and it's spelled just like my name.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, the little blonde character. And I was so
That's
excited
right.
when it came out because my name is so, is so rare. So it was very exciting to be in a
It's
game.
funny. I don't know any other Colettes personally, but I don't perceive your name to be like rare. Like, there's some names where
You
like,
don't hear it
I've
that
never,
often.
Yeah.
I think in my life, I've probably met like half a dozen other ones with the same spelling. I've met Colleen's and
Sure.
Colette's with people love to say my name Colette, and I never understand that. I'm like, it's Colette. It's a French name. Have you ever heard a French word?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I'm still cracking myself up because I just pulled up the trailer for Tales of Arise, and I love that. I was like, it really reminds me of that Tales series.
So all right. Wait, if this
Oh my God.
I could play a Tales game on the Switch. Maybe
I've never played a Tales game except for the one you just mentioned, the one with my character in it. I've never played one, and I liked that one, but it wasn't like, oh, cool, I like it so much, let me go get every other Tales game. It wasn't like that. It's very pretty, but yeah, it
very
did.
pretty.
No, go ahead.
If memory serves, I think I remember being drawn to it because it was like, it's Final Fantasy, where it's a JRPG and it's got all these characters and it's got these random encounters, but instead of turn-based battles, you hop into a battlefield and it's action combat. And you were controlling multiple characters in an action sequence, and that was like, whoa, this is so different from all the other RPGs I had played, and that's what got me going on Tales of Symphonia.
Like if you hate like grinding, like typical like turn-based grinding, like that's the perfect kind of RPG for you.
A little antidote to that stuff.
Yeah. And actually, you know what? I thought of you earlier because when I saw the trailer for Monster Hunter Stories 2, I was like, oh, I know Matt's a Monster Hunter fan. Like, was this something you'd be interested in?
This is an RPG, a story-driven RPG, and it looks lovely and it looks cute, and there's cool. It looks like there's cool, like you can capture monsters and breed them and just splice their DNA, almost like a little bit of a Pokemon kind of thing.
But so it's different.
I get it, but I believe it is quite different from the Monster Hunter grind of like, let me fight this epic battle over and over to get the cool armor and upgrade and upgrade and upgrade. I believe they're different beasts.
It seems like it might be. And funny enough, the regular Monster Hunter is probably something that I'd play less, but this totally looks more like something I would play.
Yeah, I think that's right. But there's no shortage of great RPGs out there. So I don't know.
Right.
I don't know if this one, it's really interesting to me because like, if you love Monster Hunter, you love the grind of Monster Hunter. If I'm going to play an RPG, I'll play an RPG. There's nothing about the Monster Hunter universe or lore that is very good. It's fine. That's not why I'm here.
Right.
So to like, guess what, everyone? It's an RPG in the Monster Hunter universe. It's like, why?
Well, I guess it depends. It depends on the individual gamer. Like for some Monster Hunter fans, they might be so obsessed that they're like, yes, this is perfect. This gives me another way to enjoy, and for others, it's going to be like, yeah, I don't. Okay. So, I mean, I'm not going to lie. Like, I personally, for me to take on an RPG that I'm going to spend like 60 plus hours on, it's got to be really good.
Yeah, it's got to have a great world in there. Speaking of, we probably touched on it, but like I've kind of been craving like a 2D RPG, but a modern one. And there's a couple here and there that I've been looking at. I haven't taken the plunge yet, but like, I don't know. For Switch specifically, like what's like a story.
Child of Light.
I played it and really enjoyed it.
Oh God, it's so beautiful.
That's a great recommendation. And we never finished it. I was playing it with my daughter, and you know what? I remember hitting a wall where I was either unable or unwilling to grind past a certain boss fight, and then we set it aside. But that's no disrespect to it. It's a spectacular game.
Yeah, I think, you know what? Actually, I just thought of another one. Have you guys played any of the Ori and the Blind Forest games?
I did and really loved the first one. That's more of a Metroidvania kind of thing.
Okay.
And
so not quite RPG enough.
No, you know what I'm looking for? I'm looking for a Chrono Trigger Final Fantasy kind of top-down 2D. When I say 2D, it's not a firm requirement. I just like like have a party and it's different classes and but there's a story, something like that.
I played one, I think it's called Crosscode.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yeah. And you told me about it, and I've heard about it. Maybe that's what I want.
But like, it just really gave me really strong like SNES vibes. I cannot testify to whether the story is terrific. I can say that the little I played was very interesting.
That's a good recommendation. I need to look back at it. Yeah, I'm looking at. There's a game on Switch called Aura Fell, which is very SNES 2D RPG, which has pretty good reviews, but then is also like, it's good, but then there's a lot of random encounters and you're just grinding through, which I'm not opposed to, but I just want a good story. Iconfell, Phenotopia is one other one that I've seen. And all of them are kind of like, it's fine if you like these sort of games. And I'm like, I need something great. I want a great one of those. You know?
Want a great game. I get that. And why not? I mean, we've talked before about how, as we get older, we're like more selective about how you spend your time, So yeah, I'm right with you. I definitely would want the same, but Crosscode, I think, in fact, I'm glad that it came up randomly in conversation because bringing it up made me remember that I really do want to go back to that.
I need to add Crosscode to my I have a big Trello board, which is like, here's what I'm currently playing. Here's what I want to play. Here's stuff that's like, I'm keeping an eye on it. And then another column, which is like, oh, this looks cool, but it doesn't fit into my life right now. So maybe... maybe one day kind of thing. So Crosscode needs to be in that matrix again.
Yeah, like the, 2D action RPG. And one thing that's nice about it too, I don't know how you are with your RPG settings, but for me, my sweet spot is always like sci-fi settings. Like I like those versus like medieval. And that's what Crosscode is actually. So it has a sci-fi story.
It's like the characters are playing an MMO, but they are real people, but they're inside the game world. Am I thinking of the right game?
But I don't think I got enough like story in the demo to be able to like fully say. But it definitely I think might suit the vibe, and also I might just buy it. I just pulled up my phone. I was like, why didn't I buy this?
Yeah, maybe that's what I need on Switch right now. All right, more listener hype right now. Techno from your Discord, Metroid anything. Like there's rumors of a new 2D game. No one knows anything about Prime 4. Are you? First of all, before we go down this path, are you a Metroid person?
I never have been. I played the original, of course, on the NES, and I thought it was really cool. I don't think I finished it as a kid, though.
Very hard.
Very hard, yes.
NES Metroid, especially when we were kids, is like, whoa, what's this cool thing? I don't know what I'm doing. Where do I go?
Yeah, it was definitely one of those games where you had to stay tenacious to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever shared this on the podcast before, but I as a kid, I was lucky enough to have a little video game rental place. It wasn't movies, it was just games. Like,
really?
Yes, like a 2-block walk from my house. Performance Hobby, really I will never forget it. So as a kid, my grandmother would be like, here's $5, walk down to the Performance Hobby. And, I was allowed to rent 2 games at a time and for $5, and I could keep those games for 3 days.
Yep.
So, and, I was young enough where, obviously I had school, but otherwise I had, a decent amount of time. So I was able to play basically every NES library game that the store had, which was, I've gone back to look, it was about 80% of what was available. I missed out on classics like Bubble Bath Babes because clearly they weren't going to rent that to an 8-year-old. But like on the whole, I got to play a lot, so that was...
Shit, sorry to interrupt, but I suddenly love the idea of looking at the entire catalog of every NES or Super NES release and ticking off like what percentage have I ever touched. That doesn't mean finished or played through or whatever. It's like, did I rent this game for 10 minutes in 1991? Great. Then I played it.
Yeah, no, there were definitely...
I would like to know
a
how
lot
much
of
catalog.
those for me, for sure. So
how cool is that because like we had to go to Blockbuster, which was like you had to go with your parents in the car. So it was like you needed permission, or there had to be a let's all get out there and go kind of thing. But for you, that sort of autonomy to be like, yep, all right, Friday night, here's $5. I'm just going to go and get the game I want because I can do it.
Yeah, it was a really pleasant memory. And there was a really sweet man there who owned the business. It was obviously like a very small one-person business. His name was Guy, and he was always happy to see me and just thought I was the most pleasant little kid. And maybe I was, because I was, getting games. So what's not to be pleasant about that? Yeah. But yeah, it's a really fond memory, and I'm lucky that I got to play so many games at that time, because like my parents couldn't have afforded to buy all those games, so I got lucky.
That was the dream that was what rental was all about. That's what the whole system was. God, what a joy. Thanks for sharing that. That is a special thing.
Yes, of course. It is the anchor point, if I really think about it, of my entire like gaming love. That was really the anchor point of it all.
And think about that. Think about that guy named Guy. Like, he's just running a business, doing his passion, but like that the existence of his store had such a profound impact on you and I'm sure many other people.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, no doubt. It had to have,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, a very nice memory indeed.
So you're not a Metroid person. I love Metroid, and Super Metroid is the bee's knees. It is the pinnacle of all these kinds of games, and there have been really spectacular these types of games in that mold since then, Hollow Knight and such. But Super Metroid holds the fuck up. It's
nice.
Just dripping with atmosphere, to your point about why that's important to you. Very complex, and the world is very complex. And of course, the whole hook of Metroid is that, hey, you can go anywhere, but you need a certain power up or item or key or whatever to progress here. And it's non-linear, so you can go and do whatever you want, but there is a system in place that's preventing your progress in different areas, and then you slowly unlock different areas, and the map becomes bigger and bigger, but it's filled with secrets, it's filled with lore, and there's really not, even the Metroid Prime games, which are also spectacular, there's something about Super Metroid that really
perfect for
is
you.
Very special. It's perfect. And so, I hope the rumors are true about another 2D Metroid for Switch. That would be lovely. Something, to Techno's point, about 4 would be cool, because they were like, we're making Metroid 4. And then they were like, oopsies, we really fucked up Metroid 4. So we pulled the studio off, and now Retro, who made the other Metroid Prime games, is back.
Oh my.
Making this game the way it should be made. And we've never heard anything about it since. So
yeah,
let's hope. New Smash DLC, which I get. I enjoy Smash. My kids enjoy it, and I think it's fun to see fun new characters there. But I'm not waiting with bated breath. But I get the folks that do.
Yeah.
New MK, which I assume is Mortal Kombat / Injustice. I'm not a Mortal Kombat person, but everyone loved 11. Rave reviews, from what I hear. Street Fighter, new IP from Bungie, which I get. Anything Star Wars, yes. We were talking to the Discord. Jedi Fallen Order is great. There will be a Jedi Fallen Order 2. Will we see anything this week about it? I don't know. Maybe. That'd be cool. What's your affinity level for Star Wars stuff? Are you like, I gotta play the latest thing, or you're not really, you don't care? Super
casual. Like, I love Star Wars, but like the thrust of my love of Star Wars is the movies. I have played very casual Star Wars games, so like stuff like Star Wars Lego games.
Oh yeah.
But other than that, I've really never gotten that into them.
If you're ever craving just a good old-fashioned action RPG, but with lightsabers, and you just want to slice and dice some stormtroopers, Jedi Fallen Order is cool. And it's a good story that it tells the story of some stuff that goes down between the prequels and New Hope. It is, it's the Order 66, I think, where it's like, hey, the Emperor is taking charge of the galaxy, and we got to eliminate the Jedi. So all the clone troopers that were fighting for the Republic are now under the command of the newly forming Empire, and they're like, exterminate the Jedi. And so there's this one kid with Force powers who was training to be a Jedi, and he goes into hiding, and then shit goes down later as he becomes an adult, and he's like, I gotta get my shit together and fight back. and it's a great story. It's a great story about the Jedi being persecuted and what's been happening with that storyline between 3 and 4. And I highly recommend it as a Star Wars fan.
Awesome.
If you're ever looking for a good action game.
Yeah.
Techno saying Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, of course.
Oh my God. I'm surprised I didn't go off individually on that one.
Yeah. Did you play the remake, the first one?
Oh my God. I played it like borderline in tears because I have such deep emotions about Final Fantasy VII. And so, yes, I enjoyed it extremely. I loved the way it was handled.
It looked so well done.
Oh my God. I just, it gives me chills, honestly. I actually have not finished it. I'm very, very close to the end. I got stuck on a kind of infamous battle called the Hell House. Hell House is the boss. But anyway, in the original, it's not, it's literally like a regular turn-based fight where you fight like a house that has like differing attacks. And of course, for the remake, they turned it into this just
spectacular.
Oh my God. Like, it's amazing, but it's also quite hard. And it's one of those types of fights where the boss continues to change between what elements it's weak to. So, you get the, it's going to cast fire now. So you have to cast ice, and it changes really fast. So that also is tough about it. So, it's one of those things where I'm like, I know I have to have exactly the right stuff equipped, and like I have to go back and finish it, and I haven't. But I know what's going to happen. They're going to announce the next chapter, and then I'm going to go fuck, and then I'm going to go back and finish it.
right. Your head will explode, and you're like, I gotta.
Yeah.
So I have some important questions here, actually. One, just a hope. And I'm not holding my breath, maybe one day, but like, I'd like to see this on PC because I'd love to experience it. I'm not going to be purchasing a PS4 or PS5 probably ever. So I would like the remake to come to PC one day. And then this is very wishful thinking, but I think, we're going to talk about ridiculous hopes and dreams and predictions. Final Fantasy VI is really up there on my all-time faves. I just... Like 7 is wonderful, but like 6 was the sweet spot in my childhood.
Yeah.
And even the notion, even the idea that the team that is remaking 7 in this beautiful, spectacular way, maybe they would touch 6 like that, would be... I will buy 10 PS5s to have that game. You know what I mean? That's what will bring me in there. And that's silliness. But then also, as we were talking about, like, I need an RPG to play on the Switch. And I have asked you this before, and I have taken notes, and I have wish listed certain items based on your recommendations, but I would like to revisit it here.
Mhm.
Like, I missed all the PlayStation Final Fantasies, the 10, the 10s, the 12s, the X's, whatever it was. So and they're all on Switch now.
Yes.
And 7 is on Switch.
Yes.
And so, are
Which
these
one-
worth revisiting?
Which one to play?
Yeah.
In my opinion, yes. I am a strong Squaresoft fan versus Square Enix. So what that means is that everything up to Final Fantasy X-2, I think, is still Squaresoft.
Okay.
Everything after that is Square Enix. I personally did not love anything. I did not love 12. I did not love 13. I actually disliked both of them very actively.
Okay.
And
see,
then
I was leaning towards 12 because I think it has like some cool job systems. It has mechanics that were like, oh, that sounds cool.
Well,
but
and you're a big mechanics person. So that's the important part, is that what I would recommend, I don't think would be necessarily what you would most love. Because for me, the really story deep ones are like the ones that, I mean, Final Fantasy always has story. But like, if you were going to pick up any of them, based on what I know of you, I would say that maybe Final Fantasy 12 might be.
That's where I've been leaning, but I'll re-up you here in that. Like, I think I've been playing so many mechanic heavy games that I'm actually in the mood for like a story, to get lost in a story, or to go into a story that's like, I'm coming back to this game every single night, not because I need to level up, but because I want to know what happens next.
Right. Yeah, I get that. Well, 12 does have a very good story. I will say that. I feel like if you are the type of person who really likes the story to be more about like a sprawling kingdom and its history and maybe its politics, 12 is a perfect game for you. Okay, if you are a person that kind of loves the settings of your games to be, deep and remarkable, but you prefer the focus of the story to be on the relationships between your main characters, 10 is the game for that. 10 is
X, which is the
10 is X.
It's the three those three main characters on the blue background.
Titus and Yuna. And it is actually my favorite Final Fantasy game of all time. That is my number one. Yeah. So I love it. The music is absolutely stunning, but also the music of all of the Final Fantasy games, in my opinion, is stunning. Like 12's music is gorgeous. Yeah, you really can't. And I will say that there were I really thoroughly enjoyed 15 so much. And, maybe the big element there was like, oh, cool, it's like a boy band, like it's literally like, but what I loved about it is that they brought back the writer from 10 for 15. And it was pretty much the only thing to get me interested enough to go, okay, I'll come back, because I felt like the writing was still good, but it was no longer really hitting the same notes as Squaresoft's writing did. And 15 really did hit those old notes for me. So I'm really grateful that they went back to that. The brotherhood kind of vibe and the stories between the characters really meant a lot to me. And also what I thought was really interesting about 15 was that the way that Square built it, they built it purposely to have like an ecosystem. So it's not just the standalone game. It's like, well, there's parts of the story that are in the anime that they released beforehand that like, if you don't watch it like you will miss integral parts of like these characters and their world.
Interesting.
And then there are individual little stories that you can also play as DLC, and those also are like they really packed some amazing story bits into all those individual pieces that they built. So like if you go back to Final Fantasy movies or spin-offs, stuff like Crisis Core or like it's all kind of like it's all right, you know, but like they didn't put like crucial nuggets of like the character backgrounds and experiences that would make you feel differently about them or more about them in all the different pieces. And this they did. So I mean, it's hard, right, to be like, oh man, like what should you go back and play? The Final Fantasy 15 Royal Edition is like, it's for me, it's a near perfect Final Fantasy game. It didn't emotionally touch me quite on the same level that 10 did, but I'll say it got pretty deep. It definitely did.
I know it is so hard to lay this out, but doing so is incredibly helpful. Based on what you're saying, I think I will do like 12 then 10, unless you disagree.
No, I mean, I think 12 is a perfect place for you to start. And I also think that, I mean, I've honestly been tempted to go back even to the ones that I didn't love and just be like, oh, how would it feel if I went back to it now? You know? And maybe it would be great, you know, I don't know. But yeah, no, I think that would probably be a really good order for you to try. I do. Because I don't know that you would resonate with Final Fantasy X in the same way I did. You might not. It's very fantasy heavy. Like the world it creates is fantasy, but it's not medieval fantasy. It's like fine. Future fantasy, I guess. Yeah, maybe a good way. So it's got like a sci-fi bend, you know. And Final Fantasy 12, I feel like has more of like a classic RPG setting kind of feeling,
which I tend to gravitate towards. But really, the main thing that matters to me is like world building and rules. Like, does the world make sense and is it cool?
Right.
And not like, oh, you know, how do airships fly? What's the science? It's more like, does the political or fantastical structure of the world matter, or is it just like, I have superpowers, I have a big sword, I have telepathy? Like,
I strongly think 12 is your game, and I don't know if you'd really care for 10. I don't know.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me start with 12. I'll report back.
Yeah.
I'll report back on
now
that.
I'm kind of like, shit, maybe I'll see how much 12 is. If only I had the sheer amount of free time that like I swear when we do this podcast, I'm always like, oh, I gotta go play that. Oh, I'd really like to go play that. I'm gonna install Diablo 2 right now.
Trading time between revisiting things that I would love to understand differently, but also I want to play a new thing and understand that is my biggest struggle right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to see why, honestly. You know, it's interesting for me. I find that I think a lot about replaying certain games, but I very rarely get through the replays. I don't know how it is for you.
Which, you know, maybe that's okay, because you replay and you're like, oh yeah, I remember this. Oh yeah, I remember this. Okay, cool. I got what I needed from this. I remember it. It's still good, or man, it sucks. Doesn't hold up. Moving on. That's probably fine.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, I don't know if I think like it was really interesting, right? I'm going to touch on this extremely briefly, but like it was really interesting to revisit revisit Silent Hill 2 and get all the way to the end, because I really felt like getting all the way to the end really allowed me to fully compare what it was like to experience it all those years ago versus now.
Yes.
And I love that.
You put in that work almost as a a sociological experiment for yourself. It
A
was
little
like you were
bit.
enjoying it, but you really, I felt you had a commitment to seeing it through as a project, not just like as like, I need something to do. I'm going to check out this game I loved.
Yeah, it was. Well, it's like, it's interesting, right? When you have a stream, you kind of start to think about like your programming.
Yes.
Like, what am I offering people that come to my stream? And I started to think about, the things I loved and how I most wanted to express those things. And, I was like, well, I have to have a horror night. Like, that is just, as me as a thing could possibly get. But like, I don't know. Like, when I thought about what I wanted to play, I was just like, God, this is it. And I know I've tried to replay it before and not finished, but I was like, this is going to be the one. Like, I'm sure this is going to be it. So
it's nice to know that. It's nice that you were able to identify it. You're like, yep, this is it. I'm going to see it through. The audience is coming with me on this journey. Buckle up.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. It really was. It was great. And I was so amazed by how many people came along for the whole ride and just wanted to talk about it like so much. It was just great.
That's nice. Really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool.
It was.
I love that. This is what the internet is for. Speaking of which, Megalith in the Discord says a lot of what we already talked about. Metroid Prime 4, Nintendo Switch, Breath of the Wild 2, Persona 6. You already have expressed your hopes and wishes there. Elden Ring, we got a trailer today, and it's one of those Souls games, but this looks really just looks spectacular. It's super dark and gothic, from the minds of the Dark Souls people, plus George R. Martin.
I hadn't watched this trailer, so I didn't see it yet, and I didn't know. God, oh my God! So I've missed this up to now, and I'm realizing that all the streamers I know that are like Dark Souls addicts are probably losing their shit right now.
It's the thing that those people are waiting for. So the fact that this imagery that dropped today is the carrot that everyone's been waiting for. The Dark Souls games are too hard for me. They're too frustrating. I did check out Dark Souls 1 and I was like, this is so cool. Really did not make it out of the first area and put it down. So I get it. But I just need to appreciate these games from afar.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I do. Like, I have many streamer friends that just live for this shit, and I've hung out in their streams for hours before just watching it. It just doesn't do it for me. Like, it's not my thing. It looks like a stellar, fantastic thing, but it's not my thing. So
I don't mind hard. I don't mind difficult games, but it's the punishment of like, just play this boss battle until you figure out every twitch and move and tell. I don't know. And Monster Hunter is a bit like that, but there's like, if you can't overcome a battle, you can grind it out in another way and then come back to it. But I don't think that's how Dark Souls and Demon Souls works.
Right. Yeah. No, I hear you. I mean, I will say this much, it's not my kind of game, and that's fine. But I tell you what, I would watch someone play the fuck out of this game because it is gorgeous. Oh my God. Really. Like, it's so beautiful. I don't necessarily want to play it myself, but I want to look at it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I think I'm now okay with being like a person who watches From Software games versus a person who actually wants to play them.
It's kind of like, I would put, occasionally I'd put Sekiro on Twitch. I'd be like, who's playing Sekiro?
So pretty. That one I actually tried to play.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. I didn't last long, but I tried to play because it was so stunningly gorgeous. And, I don't know. Maybe I'll go back one day. I don't know. Probably not. And
that setting, like all those games are very cool, fantastical settings. But there's something about mythological feudal Japan is rad.
Oh, it's so rad. God.
I wish I would like to play an RPG, a more forgiving RPG in that kind of place. Too. And what's that other one? It's the one for PlayStation, I think. Ghost of Tsushima.
Oh, yes.
I dig it. I don't have PlayStation, so I wasn't able to access it. But I think that's it's not like a real world scenario. It's like it's got mythological creatures in it, unless I'm misremembering. I think so. Yeah, I would like more of those settings, please, in games.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I would also love that.
Megalith says PSVR 2 headset, which we know is in the works.
Oh, yeah.
Starfield, maybe we'll get something this week. This is Bethesda's next new IP, open world RPG something. You've got your Elder Scrolls, you've got your Fallout, and now Starfield something. So that's all we know. I think we've seen a logo and maybe like a leaked screenshot this past couple weeks. I would like to know.
Yeah.
Control 2, maybe? There's going to be something, right?
I would have a meltdown, honestly, but one part of me is like, yeah, but that story had such a, structurally, it was perfect to me. But on the other hand, I'm like, yeah, but like, what if we went and did other things in that amazing, amazing space they built? And I would love that. But I also kind of feel like, yeah, I don't know. In fact, I'm not even going to speak on that. I'm just going to say I would probably be excited if it got announced anyway. That was one of my favorite worlds that I have explored in games in many years.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it really has very strong horror aspects. Like it's...
Yeah, but also very like X-Files-y, like government, shadowy government org that has been studying things. I am so sad and ashamed to say that I quit Control. There was some battle in there that I was having trouble with, and I was finding I was just doing things over and over and over, and despite my absolute love for the world and the characters, and I was so into the story,
you were just out.
I just stepped away, and I'm so bummed about that. I was really disappointed in that crossroads of the game and in myself for bouncing away from it. And one day I will get back. Maybe on this new computer I'll check it out again.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, but it's funny, right? Because it's like I feel like we had a similar conversation about Hades, where you were like, "Oh my god, everybody loved it so much, and it was so beautiful, and it looked great," and then I just didn't click with it. And it's like, in a way, I get it. It's just you're disappointed because you wanted to, but in another way,
I did click with Control, and then still
right, and then still
away.
You got stuck. But that happens to me all the time. Like you get to a certain, you're having a certain kind of day, you get to a certain kind of part or a certain kind of boss, and you're like, no.
It really was. It was like my third or fourth day sitting down, and I'm just like, no, I'm not doing this shit again.
Depending on the timing, I think that can just stop you. Like,
it really was a timing thing.
No. I mean, as obsessed as I was with Final Fantasy VII, the remake, like the Hell House boss stopped me in my tracks. Right. And I knew I would go back because of that specific game. But I mean, yeah.
Do you think that original 7 is worth replaying? I don't have a lot of nostalgia for it. I had it on PC 10,000 years ago, and I only
think it's worth replaying if you had deep nostalgia about it, because it definitely shows its age, in my opinion. And I mean, honestly, if you're going to experience those same events, you should just experience them playing the remake.
Yeah, maybe I'll wait on that. Yeah.
In my opinion, the remake is so gorgeous, and it gives you such, and even if you have a dim memory of what it was like to play it in the 90s, like it's great. Play the remake. Definitely.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Stunning game. Really.
Let me give you one more on my list. It really is unrelated to any current announcements or hype or E3 or anything, but Dwarf Fortress, I've mentioned before on the podcast. It is my holy grail of games, and I've always been not afraid, but I've dabbled and I've tried and I've watched like hours of YouTube videos, and then I just can't quite bring myself to get in there. But what the developer has recently announced over the last 2 years is that they're going to bring it to Steam, and they're creating a graphical user interface, so a proper one made from the ground up for the game. There's lots of mods where it turns the ASCII text into graphics, and those are those are created by fans and they're hit or miss or whatever.
Mhm.
But this is like going to be like the official Steam release of Dwarf Fortress with real graphics, finally, for the first time after, 15 years or whatever. And the official release date for the Steam version of Dwarf Fortress is time is relative. That's what it says on the Steam page. And so there are updates coming out quite often, every month or so. The developer, his name is Tarn. He's like, hey, here's how beer works in the new game. And it's like, thanks for watching. See you in a month or whatever. And it's like, hey, all right, he's still there. He's still alive. He's working on it. He's working hard. But there's no timeline for this. So I have resolved to say I will play Dwarf Fortress or die trying. But similar to what you're saying about the Final Fantasy VII remake, I will wait for the shinier version to happen before I get in there.
Yeah, why not? Still kind of delightful though. Like, I like that he's just dropping the little like nuggets to keep people
totally is.
Yeah.
What a story. I don't know if you know anything about it, but he's a solo developer who's been working on this forever, and he just gives it away for free. And imagine working on one game for basically your entire life, your entire career, gives it away for free, took donations, and then it was something like, I think his brother got cancer or something, and he was basically like, hey guys, like, I don't make a ton of money from this. I just make an okay living, but like my brother's in trouble and we need to raise funds. And the whole community was like, hey, I've been playing this game for free. Here's my $10. Here's my $20. So you're getting it now. And then he partnered up with a publisher to bring it to Steam, and then it will be for sale on Steam for like $20. And he's like, this is what I had to do to, like, pay my family's medical bills. And which that alone is like, obviously we live in a fucked up country where people can't afford to pay their medical bills, but also like he has given the internet this gift of a game, perhaps the most complicated game ever made. And he's like, yeah, I should play it for free. Whatever. Wow. Throw me a buck if you want. And it's just a legendary story of creativity and community, and I just love it. So I want to be part of it, and I'm excited to be part of it when it's ready.
Yeah. No, totally. I hear you, and I think that's really admirable. Actually, that kind of makes me want to go like look up and read more about about his story, because that kind of thing like gets me too.
Ars Technica does a wonderful series. I'm sure you've come across it. It's called War Stories, where they interview developers of like important games. And there's one with him where he's just like, oh, I thought I'd do this. And all of a sudden created this game. They did it with Sid Meier with Civilization and Homeworld and all these other great important classics that it's like, what's the story about this? Where did you get your idea? How did you bring it to market? Good stuff like that. Ultima Online, I think they did one. I just love that. Love learning about that stuff when I can.
Yeah, no, it's it's pretty cool.
What else do we have? What else? Give me one more.
I don't know. Honestly, I think I'm kind of tapped out at the moment, but also I think that it's drawing precariously close to my old lady bedtime. So
That's right. I'll let you go. The last just quick item on my list is not a game per se, but like, I would like to go to the cloud future. I would like to stop buying machines and just open up an app and play games over the internet. And it really needs to be, 60 frames. It needs to be 1080 or better. It just needs to be there and reliable. And we're just so close. You can taste it. And today, I believe Microsoft released a lot of new details of like, we're bringing it to every TV. They're basically saying like, just get Game Pass and you'll get access to xCloud, and you maybe buy a console, but who cares? Just be part of this. And we're upgrading our data centers. We're making sure everything works properly. And I want to believe, because Nvidia has a service that's okay. Nvidia lets you play games from your Steam library in the cloud, and that is also something I would be very interested in paying for. Except publishers were all on board, and then suddenly we're like, no way, we're not letting you do that anymore. And so the library of games became very small. But I think with a Microsoft kind of pushing forward here, maybe we'll get there in 5 years. Maybe we'll really have it. Maybe I will not buy another. I don't want to buy another gaming PC in 5 years. Let me say that as a benchmark. I would love that to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think, definitely, right? Like, I think it's all moving that way. But I also wonder about, like, these companies, that have been putting out consoles for so many years, Nintendo and Sony and Microsoft. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how well they would. Like, that may be a real issue for their business plan, I guess, is what I'm thinking, like, oh, wait, we're not going to sell, this console that we made for 10 years. Like, I don't know what kind of revenue you would make. But like,
it's much smarter. It's a recurring subscription model like a Netflix. I think a smarter business person could tell you that that's a better model to hook people into. Mm-hmm. Here's what I'm interested to see, and to say that I'm worried about it is a silly thing to say, that I'm worried about these multi-billion-dollar corporations, who's going to win. But Nintendo is very poorly positioned to win over the longest view, because the Microsofts and the Amazons and the Steams, I'm really eager to see what Steam and Valve announce this coming week, because there's all these rumors about a handheld Steam console. And I think people are like, who needs a handheld computer? And I'm kind of with them. But if Steam announces a really full-on bread and butter streaming service, that's the game changer. So like, these companies are positioned with server networks and infrastructure and backbone across the world to deliver games the correct way from the cloud. Nintendo, as far as we know, ain't got shit. They just have boxes and cartridges, and they have the best IP in the world. But if you can't stream it, they're going to have to partner with someone to do the streaming, or they're going to be like, we don't do streaming, and they're going to be left in the dust. And I don't mean 5 years.
They've always been left in the dust. Like, they've always been the console that's like, everyone else is like, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to offer this. I mean, we forget, or I mean, I don't forget, but I'm sure many people forget that, like, before the Switch, like, Nintendo was significantly in the dark ages.
Yes, on the ropes.
And I mean, the Switch, of course, is like, okay, finally we're making, the visual quality of games to match, with, our other, but I mean, yeah, I don't ever see them doing something like that. I see them as being like, we're Nintendo, we do things differently. Mm-hmm. Even if the entire world is going another way.
And that if they come up with a system or a gimmick or an IP that is just that good, where I don't care that it's not what everyone else is doing, I got to have this, then they will continue to do great. I just, there is it's like someone saying, here's my CD, check out my band. It's like, well, I literally have no way to listen to your band. It has to be on the internet. Otherwise, I can't listen to it. So I am very excited to watch the war that is coming amongst these companies, because it's on.
Yeah, you're right. It is most certainly on, and that's going to be very interesting.
All right, bedtime.
Okay, bedtime.
Thank you, everyone who's listening, for entering the chat with us. We really appreciate it. If we want to hear what you're hyped about. We're going to get through this week where it's literally like 10,000 trailers a day. I can't even believe how much stuff is coming out. So please, when things catch your eye, if it's the thing that's like, yes, I've been waiting for this, or if it's the thing that's like, what the fuck who is this? Whatever, I need to have it. We would like to hear about it. So please send us an email at haveenteredthechat gmail.com. Join the Discord server, which will be linked in the notes of this show.
Yay.
You can, of course, tweet at us. I am at Matt_Silverman. Colette, what's your Twitter?
At Colette Bennett.
Easy.
Yep.
And thanks again for hanging with us. Our theme music is by Azure Flux. Our logo is illustrated by Just Call Me Katarina. And, if you enjoyed this episode, please give it a rating or a review on your podcast platform of choice, because when people discover the show, they like to see that other people are there too. So it would really help us out if you do that. Thank you so much for chatting.
Thanks, everyone.
And we will talk at you next time.